My name is Howard Ellison, and I'm 74 years old. For most of my life, I've been what you'd call a quiet man, the kind who keeps his head down, does his work, and minds his own business. I spent 22 years in the Navy, served on 3 different destroyers, and when I came home, I worked for 31 years at Burlington Northern Railroad. My wife Margaret and I raised 2 children, Eric and Melanie, in a modest 2-story house in Plano, Texas. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We had Sunday dinners, family vacations to Galveston, and the kind of life that felt solid, predictable, and good. Margaret passed away 5 years ago from pancreatic cancer. The house felt too big after that, too quiet, but I stayed because it was home. I filled my days with simple pleasures, tending to my tomato garden, reading Louis L'Amour novels, and brewing coffee the old-fashioned way in a percolator that my kids always called my old man obsession. I liked routine. I liked peace. I thought I'd earned both. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video, and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. About 6 months ago, I had what you might call a wake-up call. I was changing a light bulb in the kitchen when I lost my balance and took a tumble. Nothing broken, just some bruises and a reminder that I wasn't as steady as I used to be. My knees had been giving me trouble for years, and my vision wasn't what it once was. I realized I probably shouldn't be living alone anymore. Eric, my son, lives in Richardson with his wife and 2 teenage boys. He's a regional manager for a software company, always talking about quarterly reports and client meetings. When I called him about the fall, he said, "Dad, you should come stay with us for a while. We'll figure something out." It sounded like concern, but there was something in his voice, a kind of tired resignation that I should have paid more attention to. So I packed a bag and moved in with Eric's family. That first week, I tried to make myself useful. I'd make coffee in the morning, offer to help with yard work, even attempted to connect with my grandsons about their video games. But Eric was always rushing out the door, claiming he had back-to-back meetings. His wife Jennifer was polite but distant, and the boys treated me like furniture, present but not really worth acknowledging. The worst part was dinner. In my house, dinner was sacred. Margaret and I always ate together, talked about our days, made plans for the weekend. But at Eric's house, I'd sit at the kitchen table while the family ate in the living room, watching Netflix. Nobody invited me to join them. Nobody asked how I was feeling. I was just there, taking up space. After 3 weeks of this, Eric sat me down and said, "Dad, I think you'd be happier at Melanie's place. She's got more room and the kids are younger. It might be better for everyone." The way he said everyone made it clear he meant everyone except me. Melanie lives in Frisco with her husband Dave and their 2 young children. She's a dental hygienist, always cheerful, always talking about family values and taking care of each other. When Eric dropped me off at her house, she gave me a big hug and said, "Daddy, we're so excited to have you here. The kids can't wait to spend time with their grandpa." But the excitement lasted about 4 days. My grandson complained that I made noise when I walked to the bathroom at night. My granddaughter said I snored too loud. Melanie mentioned that my morning coffee ritual, the percolator whistling at 6 a.m., was waking up the whole house. Dave started working late, staying at the office until after dinner, and Melanie began making pointed comments about how exhausting it was to take care of an elderly person. The final straw came on a Tuesday morning. I was in the kitchen, making my coffee, when Melanie walked in with that forced smile she'd been wearing for weeks. She sat down across from me and said, "Daddy, we need to talk." "You know we love you," she began, "which is how you know something bad is coming. But Dave and I have been thinking, and we believe you need a real break. Somewhere you can rest and be properly taken care of." I set down my coffee cup. "What are you suggesting?" "Well, remember Aunt Helen Carter, Margaret's sister? She lives in Tucson now, and she's been asking about you. She's got a beautiful house, lots of space, and she'd love to have you visit for a while." I knew Helen Carter. She was a kind woman, but she was also 81 years old and had her own health problems. The idea that she was asking about me seemed unlikely. But I didn't argue. I just nodded and said, "If you think that's best." "I already bought your plane ticket," Melanie said, pulling out a boarding pass. "Southwest flight tomorrow morning from Dallas Love Field to Tucson. I'll drive you to the airport." That night I lay in the guest room bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about how I'd gotten to this point. 2 children who couldn't wait to get rid of me, shipped from house to house like an unwanted package. But I'm not a bitter man by nature. I told myself that maybe they were right. Maybe I did need a change of scenery. The next morning, Melanie drove me to the airport with a small suitcase and a cheerful attitude that felt more like relief than sadness. She walked me to the security checkpoint, gave me another hug, and said, "Have a wonderful time with Aunt Helen. Call us when you get there." As I watched her walk away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Completely alone. I got to the TSA checkpoint at Dallas Love Field around 10:30 a.m. The line was longer than usual, and I noticed people seemed more agitated than normal. There had been some controversy in the news lately about TSA procedures, something about new security measures that were causing delays and frustration. I've always been a patient man. 22 years in the Navy teaches you to follow orders and wait your turn, so I didn't mind the wait. When I finally reached the security agent, a young woman with tired eyes, she looked at my boarding pass and driver's license with the kind of scrutiny that made me feel like a suspect. "Sir, you'll need to remove your shoes, belt, and jacket," she said in a monotone voice that suggested she'd repeated this instruction 1,000 times that morning. I bent down to untie my shoes, but my arthritic fingers struggled with the laces. The people behind me were getting impatient, and I could hear someone muttering about slow old people holding up the line. As I tried to balance on one foot to remove my right shoe, I stumbled slightly and had to grab the metal table for support. "Sir, please step aside and sit down," the TSA agent said, pointing to a plastic bench. "Take your time, but please move out of the line." So there I was, sitting on a cold plastic bench in my socks, struggling with my shoelaces while travelers streamed past me. It was in that moment, feeling small and vulnerable, that I really looked at my boarding pass for the first time. The date was wrong. Not today's date, but next Tuesday's date, a full week away. My first thought was that Melanie had made a mistake. She'd been rushing that morning. Maybe she'd accidentally booked the wrong date. I pulled out my cell phone, an old flip phone that my kids were always making fun of, and called her number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail again. I called Eric. After 4 rings, he answered with the kind of irritation that told me I was interrupting something important. "Dad, what is it? I'm in a meeting." "Eric, there's something wrong with my plane ticket. The date is for next week." There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "Melanie bought me a ticket, but it's dated for next Tuesday, not today. I'm sitting here at the airport, and I can't board the plane." Another pause, longer this time. "Dad, I don't know anything about your travel arrangements. You need to call Melanie, she handled all of that. I tried calling her, she's not answering." "Well, keep trying. I'm not in charge of your schedule, Dad, I've got to go." He hung up. I sat there for a moment, still in my socks, holding my phone and trying to process what had just happened. Around me, the airport was buzzing with activity. Families were reuniting, business travelers were rushing to catch flights, and everyone seemed to have somewhere important to be. Everyone except me. I tried Melanie's number again. This time she answered, "Daddy, how's everything going? Are you on the plane?" "Melanie, the ticket is dated for next week. I'm sitting here at the airport and I can't fly anywhere." "What? That's impossible. I specifically asked for today's date when I bought the ticket online." "I'm looking at it right now. Tuesday, March 19th. Today is March 12th. I heard her talking to someone in the background, probably Dave. Then she came back on the line. "Daddy, I'm so sorry. There must have been some mix-up with the website. Where are you right now?" "I'm at the TSA checkpoint. I can't get through security with this ticket." Okay, don't panic. Let me call the airline and see what I can do. Can you wait there for a little bit?" "Where else would I go?" "Right, just sit tight. I'll figure this out." She hung up. I put my shoes back on and found a seat in the main terminal. Love Field isn't huge, but it's busy, and as the morning turned into afternoon, I watched thousands of people come and go. I called Melanie every hour. The first few times she didn't answer. When she finally did, around 2 p.m., she sounded frazzled. "Daddy, I'm still working on it. The airline is being really difficult about changing the date. It might take a while." "How long is a while?" "I don't know. Maybe you should take a taxi back to our house and we'll figure this out tomorrow." "Melanie, you dropped me off here this morning. You were in a hurry to get rid of me then, and now you want me to take a taxi back?" Daddy, that's not how it was." "Then how was it?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I'll call you back." But she didn't call back. Not at 3 p.m., not at 4 p.m., not at 5 p.m. I called Eric again. "Dad, what's going on? Melanie said you were supposed to be in Tucson by now." "Eric, I'm still at the airport. The ticket was dated wrong, and nobody seems to know how to fix it." "Well, that's weird. Did you call Melanie?" "I've been calling her all day. She's not answering." "Well, I'm not even in town right now. I'm in Austin for a client meeting. I can't really help you." "When will you be back?" "Not until Friday." "Dad, you need to figure this out with Melanie. She's the one who made the arrangements." I tried calling Helen Carter in Tucson. When she answered, her voice was surprised. "Howard, is that you? How are you, dear?" "I'm fine, Helen. I'm supposed to be flying out to visit you today, but there's been some confusion about the ticket." "Visit me?" "Howard, I don't know anything about a visit. Nobody called me." That's when I knew. Sitting there in the airport, surrounded by strangers, holding a phone to my ear while my sister-in-law told me she had no idea I was coming to visit. That's when I understood what had really happened. My children had dumped me at the airport. They'd given me a fake ticket, made up a story about Aunt Helen, and abandoned me there. They probably thought I'd figure it out and take a taxi home, tail between my legs, grateful for whatever scraps of attention they might throw my way in the future. But they had no idea what they'd actually done. They had no idea about the settlement check I'd received 3 months earlier from Burlington Northern Railroad. $750,000 for a class action lawsuit about asbestos exposure that had been working its way through the courts for 15 years. I'd never told anyone about it. Not Eric, not Melanie, not even Margaret before she died. I'd been saving it for them, actually. I'd planned to split it between my children when I passed away, maybe help with college funds for the grandchildren. It was going to be my final gift to the family I'd worked so hard to provide for. As I sat there in that airport terminal watching the sun set through the windows, I realized something important. I was done being anyone's burden. I was done being shuffled around like an inconvenience. I was done being the old man who was too polite to demand better treatment. That night, I slept in the airport. A kind janitor named Miguel found me around midnight and helped me find a quiet corner where security wouldn't bother me. He brought me a blanket and a cup of coffee from the employees' break room. He treated me with more kindness in 5 minutes than my own children had shown me in months. The next morning, I woke up stiff and sore on that airport bench, but my mind was clearer than it had been in months. Miguel found me around 6 a.m. and brought me another cup of coffee. "You okay, senor?" he asked. "You need me to call somebody?" "No," I said. "But thank you. You've been kinder to me than my own family." He looked sad when I said that. "That's not right, man. Family should take care of family." By 7 a.m., I was on the phone with my lawyer, Patricia Hendricks, who'd handled Margaret's estate and my railroad pension paperwork. She'd been my attorney for 12 years, and I trusted her completely. "Howard, where are you calling from? It sounds like you're in a train station." "I'm at the airport, Patricia. I need to make some changes to my will, and I need to do it today." "Are you traveling somewhere?" "That's a long story. Can you meet me?" She agreed to pick me up within the hour. While I waited, I called Eric one more time. "Dad, where are you? Melanie said you never made it to Tucson." "I'm still at the airport, Eric. The ticket was fake. There was never any arrangement with Aunt Helen." "What do you mean, fake?" "I mean your sister gave me a boarding pass for the wrong date and dropped me off here to get rid of me. I spent the night sleeping on a bench." There was a long pause. Dad, that's not what happened. Then what did happen? I don't know. There must have been some confusion. Why don't you take a cab home and we'll sort this out later? Which home, Eric? I don't have a home anymore, remember? You and Melanie made it clear I'm not welcome in either of your houses. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you invited me to dinner? When's the last time you asked me how I was feeling? When's the last time you treated me like your father instead of an inconvenience? He didn't have an answer for that. When Patricia arrived, she took one look at me and said, "Howard, you look terrible. What's going on?" I told her everything, the shuffling between houses, the fake ticket, the night in the airport. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Howard, I'm so sorry. What do you want to do?" "I want to change my will. I want to remove Eric and Melanie as beneficiaries." "Are you sure? This is a big decision and you're emotional right now." "I'm not emotional, Patricia. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months. They've made it obvious they don't want me in their lives. Why should they benefit from my death?" We went to her office, and I spent the next 3 hours rewriting my entire estate plan. Everything that was supposed to go to my children, the house, the life insurance, the railroad pension survivor benefits, and the Burlington Northern Settlement, would now go to establish a foundation for abandoned elderly veterans. "What about your personal effects?" Patricia asked. "Family photos, your military medals, things like that? Donate them to the Veterans Administration. Let them mean something to someone who'll appreciate them." While we were working, my phone rang 6 times. Eric called twice, Melanie called 4 times. I let them all go to voicemail. That afternoon, Patricia drove me to a real estate agent. I put my house on the market immediately. It was a seller's market in Plano, and the agent was confident we'd have offers within the week. "Where will you live?" Patricia asked. "I'm going to find a place in Austin, somewhere with good medical facilities, maybe a senior community where I can make friends with people who actually want my company." The next day, I drove to Austin and found a beautiful 1-story house in a 55-plus community called Sunset Manor. It had a small garden, a screened-in porch, and neighbors who greeted me with genuine smiles. The sales agent, a woman named Carol, showed me around personally. "Are you moving here to be closer to family?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm moving here to get away from them." She didn't ask any follow-up questions, which I appreciated. I put down a deposit that day and arranged for a home health aide service to help with cleaning and medication management. For the first time in months, I felt like I was making decisions for myself instead of being shuffled around by other people's convenience. My children didn't know where I was. I'd turned off my phone after leaving Patricia's office, and I planned to keep it that way for a while. But I knew they'd figure it out eventually. I knew they'd come looking for me when they realized what I'd done. Sure enough, on Thursday morning, I was sitting on my new porch drinking coffee from my old percolator when a white sedan pulled into my driveway. Eric and Melanie got out, both looking frantic. "Dad!" Melanie called out. "There you are! We've been looking everywhere for you!" They walked up to the porch like nothing had happened, like I hadn't spent Tuesday night sleeping on an airport bench because of their lies. "We were so worried," Eric said. "When you didn't answer your phone, we thought something terrible had happened." "Something terrible did happen," I said. "My own children abandoned me at an airport." "Dad, that's not what happened," Melanie said. "There was a mix-up with the ticket. I tried to call you back, but your phone was going straight to voicemail. I waited all day for you to call me back. I slept on a bench because of your mix-up. We know, and we're sorry. But we're here now, and we want to make it right. We want you to come home." "Which home is that?" They looked at each other. Eric cleared his throat. "We've been talking, and we think the best solution is for you to move back into your house in Plano. We'll hire a home health aide to check on you, and we'll visit more often." "I sold the house." "You what?" Melanie's voice went up an octave. "I sold the house. I'm living here now." "Dad, you can't just sell the house without talking to us first. That's our inheritance." And there it was, the real reason they'd come looking for me, not because they were worried about my safety or my happiness, but because they were worried about their inheritance. "Your inheritance?" I said. "I'm not dead yet." That's not what we meant, Eric said quickly. We meant that house has been in our family for 40 years. It has sentimental value. Where was that sentimental value when you were both so eager to get rid of me? They stayed for another hour, trying to convince me to move back to Plano, trying to make me feel guilty for selling the house without consulting them. But I'd made up my mind. I was done being manipulated by people who only cared about me when it affected their financial future. After they left, I called Patricia. "How did it go?" she asked. "Exactly as I expected. They're not concerned about my well-being. They're concerned about their inheritance. Are you having second thoughts?" "No. If anything, I'm more convinced than ever that I made the right decision. Patricia, I want to add one more thing to my will." "What's that?" "I want to leave each of my children exactly $1. Not nothing, because that could be contested as an oversight, but $1 each, so there's no question that I deliberately chose to disinherit them." She was quiet for a moment. "Howard, are you absolutely sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." The Plano house sold in 5 days for $60,000 over asking price. The buyers were a young military couple with 2 small children, and when I met them at the closing, I felt good knowing that a family who'd actually appreciate the place would be living there. Meanwhile, my new life in Austin was everything I'd hoped for. My neighbor, a retired Air Force colonel named Jim Martinez, invited me to play poker every Tuesday night. A woman named Dorothy from down the street brought me homemade cookies and stayed for coffee. For the first time in months, I felt like a person instead of a burden. The home health aid service I'd hired was excellent. A kind woman named Rosa came by 3 times a week to help with cleaning and to make sure I was taking my medications properly. She was from El Salvador, and she'd remind me a little of Miguel from the airport, someone who treated me with dignity just because I was a human being. 2 weeks after the house sale, Eric and Melanie showed up again. This time they brought their spouses and my grandchildren. They'd clearly coached the kids on what to say. "Grandpa, we miss you," my grandson said in that rehearsed way children have when adults make them perform. "We want you to come home," my granddaughter added. But I could see the calculation in Eric and Melanie's eyes. They were worried about the money, not about me. "This is my home now," I told them. "I'm happy here." "Dad, we need to talk about your finances," Eric said. "Selling the house without consulting us, buying a new place, hiring all these services. You're going to spend through your savings." "Don't worry about my savings, Eric. I have more than enough." "What do you mean?" Melanie asked. "I mean I received a settlement from Burlington Northern Railroad, $750,000. The look on their faces was priceless. Shock, then immediate calculation, then a kind of desperate friendliness that made me sick. "Dad, that's wonderful," Melanie said. "You should have told us sooner. We could have helped you invest it properly." "I've invested it exactly as I wanted to." "What do you mean?" Eric asked. "I mean I've established a foundation for abandoned elderly veterans, the Howard and Margaret Ellison Foundation. Every penny of that settlement, plus the proceeds from the house sale, plus my life insurance and pension benefits, will go to help old soldiers whose families have thrown them away." They stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Dad, you can't be serious," Eric said. "I'm completely serious. Patricia has all the paperwork. It's already done." "But what about us?" Melanie asked. "What about your grandchildren? What about you? You made it clear you didn't want me in your lives. You lied to me, abandoned me at an airport, and only came looking for me when you realized I'd sold the house. Why should I leave you anything?" "Because we're your family," Eric said. "No, Eric, family takes care of each other. Family doesn't dump their elderly father at an airport with a fake ticket. Family doesn't treat their parent like an inconvenience." They tried to argue, tried to make me feel guilty, tried to convince me I was being unfair. But I'd made my decision, and I was at peace with it. That was 3 months ago. Today, I wake up every morning in my own house, make my coffee in my old percolator, and tend to my small garden. Jim Martinez and I have become close friends. Dorothy and I have dinner together twice a week. Rosa has become like a daughter to me. The Howard and Margaret Ellison Foundation is already helping 12 elderly veterans who were abandoned by their families. We've placed them in good facilities, connected them with medical care, and most importantly, shown them that their service and their lives have value. Eric and Melanie have called a few times, but I don't answer. They had their chance to be my children, and they chose money over family. Now they'll have to live with the consequences of that choice. I won't lie and say I'm not sad about losing my children, but I've learned that sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born with. I've learned that respect has to be earned, not demanded. And I've learned that it's never too late to take control of your own life. My lawyer tells me that Eric and Melanie have consulted with an attorney about contesting the will, but there's nothing they can do. I was of sound mind when I made these decisions, and I have plenty of documentation to prove it. They wanted to treat me like garbage, so I buried every cent they hoped to inherit. And you know what? I sleep better at night knowing that money is helping people who deserve it, instead of rewarding children who saw their father as nothing more than an inconvenience. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's living well, on your own terms, surrounded by people who actually value your presence. And that's exactly what I'm doing. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.